but your competition is offering it.
Absolutely.
That's the way I had to kind of come to realization, like, well, if they can do it, then of course I should be doing it.
Right.
Because if they're offering it and I'm not, who are they going to hire? Who is the customer going to hire? And it's probably not going to be me. Hey guys, welcome to Make Trades Great Again podcast. Eric and Andy here with special guest Denver Baker. How you doing, Denver?
Good. How are you guys doing today?
Good. Andy, how's it going over there in Montana?
Not too bad. Pretty nice. It's a cloudy and overcast today. We might as well bring weather into it.
Yeah, why not?
Yep, cloudy, overcast. It's gonna be warm. So
I think the last time Denver was on, we talked weather.
I think so. Yeah, it's gonna be 74 here today and humid. So yeah.
Oh yeah,
nice.
We don't have that humidity. Like I say, I think we're gonna be in the 90s for the next 10 days.
Man.
Not a drop of rain. Be 90 and 50 at night, and
they have the wildest weather out there in the
yeah,
it's perfect.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Say Denver, you've been on the podcast a few times, and the three of us, we talk quite often, or at least periodically. And the last time we talked was maybe just a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
As I was looking for advice from you, because you were my kind of guiding light on taking on financing for my business. And so everybody, if you didn't see the title of the podcast, we're going to talk about financing, but we want to kind of just talk about Denver's experience because you're using it a lot. You're using this. You've got a couple different options where you're at, and you're selling a lot of jobs because of it. So I want you to just, first of all, my question to you is, before you kind of get started and explain what you're doing, when did you start doing this financing stuff like you are now? And then also, like, how much is it things changed for you because of it? And I'm thinking, like, I'm not looking for a testimonial or anything, but I've said many times on the podcast, I got, like, what was it the other day? I just said, like, gosh, I gotta believe I sold the job because I offered financing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I'm sold on this whole thing.
Yep.
It's funny because some people listen to this, work for companies or have their own company, and they've been doing it forever. But not everybody is in that boat.
Right. Exactly.
I think more of us are finding out the value of it.
Yeah,
there's that
absolutely.
word value again. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah.
So tell me kind of how things have changed and kind of how this evolved for you.
Well, it started out for me for financing was because I was actually losing jobs that I was quoting because I didn't offer it. And we have here in Michigan, a specialty green bank, they call it. And it's a collective of, I believe it's 6 credit unions that are all together through this. It's not a state funded program, but it's a state sponsored program, and they call it a green bank because it's all in the name of high efficiency. You can't qualify for financing for, let's just say, if you've got an 80% furnace and you want to go back in with an 80, they won't approve it. You got to go up to high efficiency. So we found out about the financing through a customer that we lost a job on, and we asked them, hey, what could we have done differently? Blah, blah, blah. And said, well, the other contractor offered us financing through Michigan Saves. And so we went with them because of that. And so we started looking into Michigan Saves, found out about it, signed up with it. And then it evolved from that to now with WiseTech as our secondary option as well, because it's obviously, like, we're using House Call Pro. It's all integrated. So it makes it really seamlessly easy for someone when you go to their house and they say, oh my gosh, like we had yesterday, they said, oh, we have all these other home improvements we just did. We don't have any extra money right now. And it's like, okay, well, let me see what I can do. We get an approval for them for a $70 a month payment for a brand new air conditioner, and we can swap it in, pretty soon and get them back to cooling. And so for us, it's easy and to sell jobs with that. And it just makes it easier on the customer because then they're not so much out of pocket when maybe they're in a bind or maybe they just don't have the money at the time and they just need to get the job done.
I think when you were when you started talking, you said that, like, you found out about it by asking a customer, like, why didn't we get the job?
Exactly. Yep.
Right there, I think we should focus on that for just a second. I want to remind people, because I have to remind myself, it's not always easy to contact a customer and ask them that question. Like,
Yep.
Right.
honestly, like you
Yep.
lose out on a job and you kind of bummed, you know
Yep.
what I mean? And you're like, well, I'll get the next one, I hope. And it happens.
It happens
It
all
just
the time. Yeah.
happens. Like,
We have another contractor here, and I kind of halfway took the thing from him. At the end of the job, if they're not given the job, they actually will send them an email, and it has a form on there, and it just says, "What could we have done better to earn your business?" And it has a questionnaire, and
Right.
they say about 60% of the people will actually fill it out and send it back to them. And so I've kind of picked that up,
that
and
many, huh?
yeah, and I actually ask people, like, what could I have done differently to help earn your business as, a client? And, most people, they're pretty honest with me. They'll say, "Hey, your price was too high," or your time. The biggest one I get is your timeline. They just say, "Oh, you're too far
Yep.
out. If I'm 2 weeks out or something like that for an install." That's the number one, is usually timeline, but number two is always money. It's just, "Oh, you were too expensive, blah blah blah." And so that's also where it can headway into financing, where it's like, okay, yeah, we may be just a smidgen more expensive on the back end, but on the front end, I can get you a 10-year labor warranty, 10-year part warranty, and a monthly payment of around $70 for a new system. And it's a no brainer for some people. They're just like, "Yeah, sign me up. Let's do it." And it works out pretty good.
Well, I had to, and Andy and I have talked about it many times. It's like you have to realize this, like, if you've never done this and you've never had a conversation, like, if you can't afford this, here's what we can do. Because usually it's, here's the price,
Yep.
right? I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I take credit card, right? You felt like, like, I think even the first time you said that, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take credit cards. I'm
Right.
way back, but
Yeah.
I
Yep.
remember you were there.
Oh yeah.
And, but having that conversation, like, hey, I had to kind of get over myself because I felt like it was like personal almost at the beginning. Like, I
Right.
felt before I ever said it out loud to the customer, I felt like I'm going to say something that, well, if you can't, like, it's going to be perceived as, if you can't afford it, I can
Exactly.
try to make it affordable,
Exactly.
but it's not personal. It's just
No.
like, I have no idea why people might need to finance. It's none of my
Exactly.
business for the first part.
Yep.
Like,
Sure.
and in some cases, like, or in every case, all I'm worried about is providing the service and performing the work. Like,
Exactly.
it really, in the end, like, as long as I know I'm going to get paid,
Yep.
why does it matter who pays the bill?
Right. Well, and every customer that I deal with, I doesn't matter their circumstance. You go into some with a smaller home, some a bigger home. I say the same thing to every single one of them at the end of the estimate. We take cash, check, or charge. We also offer financing if you're interested. And every customer, once they hear that, then I'm putting the ball in their court. So now they have 4 different options of paying, and it doesn't make it, like, hey, I'm trying to pry into, can you actually afford this or anything like that. It's just we take cash, check, or charge, and we also offer financing if you're interested. And then we go from there. So takes it easy.
I'm going to get that printed on my shirt.
Cash, check, or charge.
Take
We also
cash, check,
offer
or charge.
financing.
We also offer financing.
Yep, exactly. Well, in every estimate, you and I have talked, and I've sent you over one of my estimates so you can see it. Every estimate has the line item for optional financing and shows on there how much it would be if we go through WiseTech for 0%, how much it would be if we go through Michigan Saves for a 10-year, 120-month term. Usually those are at about 6.5%. So it's on the estimate regardless. And so they're gonna see it no matter what. And so it basically is just stamping it in, like, we don't care how you pay, but we do offer the financing to make this a lot more seamless for you. So maybe you have a car repair, your transmission went out and it's a $7,000 repair or something like that. And then at the same time, the AC goes out and they're like, oh my gosh, there's another $7,000 going out. So it just makes it seamless and easy. We're just trying to make it as easy as possible for the client, so it is not an awkward situation at the end of the job of, okay, hey, can you still pay for this or not? So it's just figuring it out up front, getting it done, and making it seamless.
I think that, like, initially I thought about the financing, like, as a risk to me, thinking like, well, is this to cover up, like, is this to get me through a time and place where maybe people are, they don't have as much money in the
Right.
bank anymore.
Yep.
Inflation took a toll on a lot of
Big
families.
time. Big time.
But again, it wasn't about like but I had to realize like it's not about like any snapshot in time. Now, I guess maybe it helps in those times where people are hurting a little bit more and they're not doing as well.
Yeah.
But like you just said, like it gives them an option. Like nothing,
Exactly.
there's no explanation needed on my end as a contractor why they may need to use it. So like
Exactly.
I guess I keep focused on that because that was my biggest hurdle. Like, what is this just like gonna prolong the inevitable? Are we gonna get to a point where people now can't afford the financing? I guess, yeah,
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that might happen
Yeah.
regardless, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's always we don't offer financing yet,
Right.
and it just for me the big thing is I haven't had in the last 10 years. I bet I've only had 2 or 3 people ask, "Do you do financing?"
Right.
And that's been. It just seems like that's been a low number of people that have asked. Now there again, I'm not necessarily doing the best job at following up on the jobs that I'm not winning. Um,
Because
so
you've been
maybe
busy.
we've been busy and it's like, hey, we're just going to keep rolling on doing what we're doing. But, if that changes, then, I probably need to be looking at it a little bit closer.
Well, the more I talked to Denver about it when we were, he was kind of walking me through the process he uses on how to like really put it all down on paper and make it work,
Sure.
because there's some gymnastics around it, like you have to cover as the contractor, it's going to cost you money to finance it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
It just does. It's just like basically it's just like taking a credit card though, right? And the
Exactly.
programs we're using, you and I.
Yep.
I don't have the Michigan Saves thing, of course, because I'm here in Minnesota and they don't have that program that I know of.
Right.
But anyway.
And they still, that one still charges me too. Same thing.
Right. Yeah. So there's a cost involved. So you have to,
Absolutely.
the whole key to it, and not to get into the process of it because that's not what this is about, but like there's you have to account for that on your end.
Yep.
And so I think for me, after I talked with you and I started becoming a little bit more comfortable, because at first I was nervous. I didn't really know what I was doing when I was gonna, click the button on our
Right.
Excel
Yeah.
Pro,
Turn it on.
what it came down to.
Yep.
But going through it the first time was nerve wracking. And as we talked about it more, and as I talked about with Andy, and I kind of learned more about it, it's like the realization, it didn't take long.
Yeah.
Here's what it is, Andy. And I'm saying this to you and anybody that cares to listen. Every one of you got to think of it this way. Every one of your customer or your competition, I know that's a stretch to say every one of them.
Yeah.
But your competition is offering it.
Absolutely.
That's the way I had to kind of come to realization, like, well, if they can do it, then of course I should be doing it.
Right.
Because
right.
if they're offering it and I'm not, who are they going to hire? Who is the customer going to hire? It's probably
Exactly.
not going to be me. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Well, and it's also from a standpoint of presentation, in terms of your other competition, when you're coming at them with, say, let's just throw a ballpark out there and say it's $12,000, and you send the client a $12,000 bid, and they see on that, okay, it's 12 grand, and that's it. And then they see, okay, there's an option here though, and it's 150 a month. That's basically just a numbers thing. When they see a different number, you're inherently going to look and gravitate towards the lower number. And so when you have another contractor that's up against you and saying, hey, yeah, we can do it for $150 a month. And then you're coming, oh yeah, it's 12 grand. That's it. And they're going to be like, whoa, man, maybe I could. And the thing with financing that I get with a lot of people is the number one question right after they say, I'm interested in financing is there any penalty if I pay it off earlier? And it's always, no, you can pay it off as quickly as you want. And I mean, if you want to pay it off within 2 years instead of the 10 years that we're doing through Michigan Saves, do it. That's fine. There's no penalty because there's already the finance charge that's up front.
Yeah.
So they've already paid that. So the bank doesn't care if you pay it off sooner. They'll just be like, yeah, great. You already paid it off. That's awesome. Especially on our 0% interest.
Risk out there.
Exactly. The 0% interest that we're selling, there's no interest on it. So they're already paying the finance charge up front with that. So there's no issue with paying it up, quicker. And a lot of people right off the bat, that's what they immediately ask after that. is there any penalty if I pay it off sooner?
So on like a let's say a $10,000 job, that 0% deal, what kind of finance charge are they paying up front?
Most
Like,
of the
is
time,
that
it's usually like
$3,000 or
it's like usually 5% is usually what it works out to.
about 5%?
Yeah. Yep.
So they're gonna pay
Usually most of the time.
$500 up front on a
It depends on
$10,000 job.
how long they want to do the term. But usually I always find it's around that 5% most of the time. But if it's, like with WiseTech, theirs is, I think it's 9.9%, I think is what the finance charge is
It's high.
for theirs. Yeah. So 10%.
Yeah, and it seems high, but that's the cost, right? Like if you're using, depending on what credit card you're using, there's a cost to that credit card. There's there's all kinds of reasons why, or all kinds of ways that they're gonna get your money one way or another. I think it's deceiving in a way. Like we hear like that 0%, and it's like, well, you get a car and you buy a car on 0% terms. It's not $0.
No,
it's 0% on the amount loaned. And so to get to that loan, they're going to put that finance fee into it
right up front.
It's usually like if you watch the commercials and it's like $13 per 1,000 or whatever, that's what you're paying.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
well, and going back to when you have a customer that is, like how I was saying before, we do the cash check or charge and we also offer financing. But when somebody is immediately coming to me and they say, okay, I'm doing let's just throw a nominal number of $12,000 out there for a job. And they're like, well, I'll just put it on my credit card. Sometimes I will try to push them to financing because it's almost more economically smart to not do it on the credit card when you have an interest rate on credit cards that are, mid 20s. It doesn't make sense to do that. So then that's where I'll tell the customer, hey, let's maybe not do that with the credit card. Not that I don't want your money through the credit card, but I can actually help you and we can do this same job, same price, but instead of 23, 24%, we can do it at 6.5%. And so you're going to save a lot of money by doing it through the financing. And when they see that, then it becomes more attractive of actually, this is probably smarter to do. And then it, goes from there.
You got to talk them off that ledge of getting those airline miles, though.
Exactly. And that comes up a lot too. Of, I want the points. I want the points. It's like, well, are the points really that big of a deal? Like, how much are you traveling? So some people
they're not that big a deal if it
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say this, I totally hear what you're saying there. I have had a number of customers who have said that, and I've kind of said, okay, whatever. And in the most cases, with the clients that I've had that have done that have put a large number on their credit card, they're usually pulling money out of an investment and then they're going to pay that credit card off in 10 days or whatever.
Right.
And they'll wrap the miles up that direction. They don't pay the finance charge. They don't pay a credit card fee, whatever, and they gain the miles and away everybody goes on. But that's not every scenario that,
right.
That somebody's using investment money to do that. So,
I mean, let's be honest with ourselves though. I mean, it's easy for me to stand back and be like, well, yeah, but Andy, a lot of your customers are like wealthy. Okay. Sure. I mean, I have every chance to have wealthy customers too, but I kind of work in an area where maybe it's a little more blue collar.
Yeah.
I have no idea what my customers are capable of paying. And I'm sure that all three of us are walking in and out of people's property that it may on the face of it look like they could afford anything I might have to do for them. But in reality, maybe they cannot.
Exactly.
So we're talking about offering this as a service to our customer. And ultimately we looked at it. I mean, I know I did, and I have no reason to believe Denver, you think of it any other way or approach it in any other way, is that you said it at the beginning, you lost a job and you didn't want to stop losing the jobs.
Exactly.
So that's the way that's the reason I did it. Think back honestly. I keep saying honestly, and I'm sorry, that's a word that's stuck in my head, but think back just a few years, because I think it's probably been only a few years, let's say 10 years, within the last 10 years, started accepting credit cards.
Yeah.
Can you imagine today not taking credit as a form of payment? Like, honestly, that's an honest question.
Yeah,
I know your answers, but think about the people listening to this. Do you think there are people listening to us right now that don't accept credit card for their plumbing or heating business?
Well, I think there definitely are. I've got a couple of them here. There's a couple of a couple of people that I've been in business with for 15 years, right? Not in business with, in business alongside.
Yeah, competition.
Basically competitors, and that don't.
You have competitors in a major metropolitan area that are doing plumbing or heating or whatever it is that
cash
they
or
do.
check.
Cash or check only?
Yep. And they bill it out on the, when they get around to it. And it's
so they're like self-financing jobs, basically.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you look, if you and I look at it, and along with Denver, right? If we look at it from the outside, we're like, what? Why? How are you doing that? Like, why?
Right.
So why would you do that? They're saying, what, you owe us now, or you owe us in a certain amount of time, or what?
They'll go do the project, and then be like, yep, we'll send you a bill. And then if the bill comes in 15 days or 20 days, or hey, I just haven't that. I mean, Eric, let's be real. And Denver, you're probably in the same boat. At one point in time, our businesses operated that way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Where we came home at night and we billed out some stuff until we were tired, right? And like, hey, I'm done. I'm gonna finally eat dinner, and then I'm gonna go to bed.
Yep.
Right, because I worked 10 hours.
Truck for tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it was like, yeah. And we all recognize that, we all at some point, somebody was like, hey, quit doing net 30, quit doing net 45, quit doing net 90. Right.
Net 90. It used to be like that big time with new construction. We used to do a ton of new construction homes, and it was normal that we would go in, we would do like darn near 80% of the job, and then we'd finally send them their first bill. And then at the end, once we get our final, we would send them the remainder. But now the way we've done it is I've switched it, and I do a third, a third, a third. So it's like you got to do at least a third up front, and then I'll bill you another third at rough, and then the remaining third at final, before final. We don't do our final until they're paid in full, and then we'll call in for the final. But I mean, literally, and that's just changed probably in the last 5 years, where it was unheard of before to go to a builder and say, you need to pay me some up front before we even start the project. And now it's third. Some guys do 50-50, but we do third.
But to operate a service business that way,
that's crazy.
These guys, these people you're talking about, Andy, I mean, are they doing well? Like, what's your take on it?
No, I think I think in largely they're where you and I were at when we recognized we can't do this anymore.
Right.
Okay.
They're at that point where their cash flow is really snug. Are they making money? Yeah, they do make money. There's no question. It's just delayed.
Yeah.
And that money doesn't, you run into that scenario where I guarantee you at the 10th of the month, when it's like bills are due 10 days ago, and I've got to figure out how to come up with $45,000 to pay off, the supply house, and I've got 38. Where do I get this next 6,000? You make a couple phone calls and somebody sends you a check or two, and and you just go, I remember though. I mean, I vaguely remember because it's been a long time ago. I remember having that conversation, Cheryl and I across the desk, and her going, hey, I'm trying to pay your bills, and she was working her own job at that time. Yeah. But she's like, I'm trying to pay your bills and you don't have any money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I worked freaking 36 out of the 31 days last month. Like, how do I not have any money?
Like, how is there nothing there? Yeah.
What do you mean there's no money?
Gosh, it seems like forever though, since that's been a scenario that I've had to deal with, but you're absolutely 100% right.
This is another level of that. The financing is just another level of that, of being able to say, hey, you know what? We sold the job and the money's done. We're paid. We're moving on.
Exactly. Yep.
I have to be honest. There's times where, so my standard operating procedure, my SOP.
Yep.
Now we're getting deep into the technical. My SOP is to be paid before I leave, and they know that. And in fact, get on, like, let's talk about service, not a boiler replacement or something like that. I show up, diagnose a problem. They've already paid a fee for this, basically, and I say, okay, here's the cost, and I lay it all out. Here's the cost. I'm just getting good at using the iPad now. I never used it until I'm terrible with it, to be honest with you. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But I show them all. I'm like, here's your options. Like, this is, I mean, I don't really try to go for the upgrade or any, when it comes to like service, a lot of service work, I just say, here are your options.
Yeah.
I can make this repair. Or, by the way, I mean, the hose faucet, the silk, it sucks. You should really just put a new one in, like, I'll give them that as the option.
Yeah.
And I only get the good stuff. So it tends to be kind of expensive.
Yep.
But it's very clear when I say, and I collect payment today.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I'm trying to get better at like 100% collect today. There are times where I will do work for somebody and I feel like, oh, I'm in a hurry and I've worked for this person 1,000 times. I'll just send them an invoice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you're working for. It doesn't matter how great of a customer they are. If you forget to send the invoice, now your cash flow is affected. Yep. If they forget to pay it by probably no fault of their own, like, just, the phone rang, things happen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
People are busy.
Absolutely.
And for whatever reason, they might forget to pay you, and it's probably not on purpose. All of this is a domino effect.
Exactly. Yep.
It might be a $500 invoice. Doesn't sound like it's going to break things, but it's just now that $500 invoice might be 28 days old, and you're like, you start getting the notification saying, hey, this person owes you money. Are you trying to collect it? Because that's what the software does, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, dang it, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
That's why did I invoice them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's so, I can't believe somebody's operating that way.
Well,
that's their procedure.
We do the same thing. It's got to be, we collect at the time of service unless there's a previous arrangement. But there's times I've gone out on a service call in the middle of winter, and the last one that just happened, it was a repair that was going to be around $1,100, $1,200. And it was a scenario of, I don't have any of that, right? Like, I don't have any money right now. We just spent all this money on Christmas gifts and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, I get that. And we can maybe work something out, but usually that's where I can come into play with WiseTech and financing and say, okay, what we can do, can you afford $25 a month to get this repair done? And then we're good. And then, they're good and we're paid before we even leave, type deal. Cause they, with the financing with WiseTech, it's pretty much instant, you find out right on the spot. And so, like, that customer, they were in the middle of winter. And imagine if I would have left there and not repairing it, and then they have, Christmas coming up and they have no heat in the middle of winter. So it's like, that's where financing comes into play for those folks that maybe they just can't afford it. They literally can't. And if you can offer it, everybody wins at the very end because they've got heat. You were paid before you left the job with a signature, and you're down the road to the next one. So it does help. It absolutely does.
I recall, and this has been years ago, and I don't even remember all of the details, but there was a fellow, plumbing, heating, mechanical contractor had been doing I think it was a custom garage condo build for a guy. And I'm not so sure it wasn't like a spec build that they were doing in this subdivision. And I'm trying to remember what the deal was. Guy was like, yeah, I'll bill you. Job's basically done. The contractor ended up getting killed in the car accident.
This conversation just took a turn.
Right. Well, but it's that kind of thing that you think about. The way that it worked out was that I'm trying to remember. It was like held up in like court, right?
Yeah.
Like the whatever they call that, you know, in probate.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, how do I get paid?
Right.
And you know, it was just here it is. You're not getting anything until the judge says, "Yep,
Yeah.
okay,
Release the
fine, we'll
funds.
cut
Yeah.
this check." You know, and it was one of those things. And ever since then, I've been like, "Yep, no, down payment. I don't care about what your issue is."
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm going to be at least cover my materials up front.
Yeah.
The labor side of it, I can probably, you know, choke on for a while, and you know, but if I got to pay for a boiler and $10,000 worth of radiant tubing, I mean, how do you?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well,
to
here's the
swallow.
deal
there?
too, though. Well, this financing thing, well, I was gonna apply it to your scenario. I guess if you're in the middle of a job and they have financed a project, you're probably not financing those kinds of projects. I
Right.
guess that should be my question to you, Denver. So you're doing new construction? You're not financing.
No, so
It doesn't seem.
yeah,
Like that
so
would be
we
the kind of work
typically
that
I've
you're
I've only done one job where it was a barn dominium. It was a small barn dough.
Uh-huh.
And they went to a couple other contractors and got estimates and whatnot. I was a little bit on the higher end of pricing wise, but I was the only one that was willing to help them out and to finance that. But I didn't have a heck of a lot of material into it, and it was a very small barn dough. So it was something like, you know, I can stomach this for 2 weeks and we can have the job basically done. And so most jobs though that I do financing on are just repairs or replacements, and that's it. Whenever we're doing the new construction, we're going to do a third, and it's got to be a certain type of client that we're willing to do any type of financing on a new construction, and it can't be a big like custom house type thing. There's no way. It's only take forever. So it's like, yeah, on that type of stuff we can't. But normal situations, service and replacement retrofits, yeah, we finance those a lot. So
well, I want to wrap it up, but like the one quick question I had just for reference, and just throw a number at it unless you know the number,
yeah,
or aren't comfortable saying, but like roughly how much jobs have you won and that you finance? How many jobs have you
if you
financed?
look
Like,
at our jobs
what's a
and
dollar?
what is finance versus not, I would say right now we're about 50 to 55% financed. So it's a pretty good amount of them.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that we financed lately. So yeah, since we started offering it, and you know the economy, say what you will, it's not that great, and so people don't have a heck of a lot of extra spending cash right now. And when you have that capability of saying, "Hey, I've got two different financing options for you. We can do 0% for X amount of years or 6.5% for X amount of years." It makes it very attractive for somebody to say, yeah, it's time to bite the bullet. Let's replace this 30-year-old piece of junk that's sitting in the basement and go from there.
Any more to add?
Makes it an option.
Andy?
No, I think I've kind of been dragging my feet on it for a while. We've looked into it, and we haven't taken that next step to implement it. And mostly on the basis that it's just like I need to wrap my head around how I'm going to present it.
Yeah.
And just so I know. So
yeah, and the cool thing is, Denver, you've been thank you, by the way, because you've been
absolutely
forthcoming and willing to help. Like, you've answered plenty of my questions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
absolutely.
I'm going to try not to keep bothering you, and I'm not offering this up to anybody. Don't call Denver, ask him about how to do this. But no, I do appreciate it. And Andy, you know, like, you got a good resource, and I've done just enough of it to help, you know, kind of clarify some.
I think once you figure out, like we were talking about before, the SOPs, like, and I sent you one of my estimates and showed all the numbers on how we do it. And once you have it dialed in and you figure it out, it becomes really easy. So then you can just say, these are your pricing options. This is your expected monthly payment. Obviously, it's all based on credit. So we have that in there. It's all based on credit worthiness. So but we can usually ballpark for somebody right then and there and say, hey, it's going to be about this per month. And, our software that we have gives us, and I do ask this to people once the financing thing comes about, if they're really concerned with the monthly payment, I'll just flat out ask them, like, is there any way you can let me know what your credit score is? Because then I can go off of a chart and tell you, okay, you're going to fall into this certain tier. So it's going to be, $13 a month per thousand or whatever it is. And I can tell them right then and there, this is what you should expect as long as they're being forthcoming on it. And then from there, it's basically just a few signatures and we're done and get the job done and we're paid. I think the other thing too that people get nervous about is, yes, financing is great, but how quickly do you get paid as the contractor? Which I don't think a lot of people talk about. And they get nervous about, like, well, how quickly do I get the money? It's only 2 days usually at most. I mean, you get the money right in your account within 2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple.
2 to 3 days, depends on the day of the week you take the financing, right? Like if you get it on Friday, you're not getting it right away Monday,
Exactly.
Right.
Right on, man. I appreciate it. Really
Yeah.
do. Denver, you're
Absolutely.
awesome guy.
Thanks for having me on.
You've heard me say it 1,000 times before, but give us feedback. Get in the show notes or get in the, your podcast app there. There's a little link. You can send us a text message. You can email us. You can send us messages over on Instagram. Give you just about any way to get in touch with us. We love to hear from you and get your feedback on this or other topic and topic ideas too. We want to hear what you want to hear about. So guys, take it easy. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
All right.